You are listening to Proof Text, a Glossa House podcast exploring Scripture and all things related to it. New episodes are released daily. For more information, check out glossahouse.com and subscribe to our channels on Spotify and YouTube. Welcome and enjoy.
Hello, welcome to Constituent Marking with Fred Long on Proof Text. This is Fred Long speaking, and we're working through 1 Corinthians 14. We're doing constituent marking. We've done chapters 12 and 13. Now we're on 14, 11. So let me read the Greek text and we'll do some marking, and I'll try to describe it as I go along. Ean un me idotein dunamin tes phones esome to lalunti barbaros ke o lalun en imu barbaros. All right. Well, let me put boxes around the connectors. And so far I see three. Ean, un. Therefore, if. So un is marking new development and an inference. Ean is starting a subordinate clause. And I'm going to look for where that ends. So I put in a bracket in front of it, and I see a comma, and I think that's where it ends. And there's no question. I note the punctuation. Of course, those things were added later, but that's a guide for me now. But sometimes I might disagree with that. I'm looking. I see a may, which I put a box around because it's a type of adverb. It's a negative adverb. And idon, ido, I should say ido, single underline. That's the verb. Tain dunamin, double underline. I see a genitive following the dunamin, and so ido is the subjunctive form, I think, from ida. Ida, it's a weird kind of form. It's perfect. That's why it has that kind of weird thing on the front. And because you wouldn't have an augment with the subjunctive, because aeon takes a subjunctive. So this is in fact, a perfect form, which has a reduplication. So it's a weird, perfect subjunctive form, which you don't really have that many of, but it occurs with ida. And so therefore, if I do not know the power of the voice, esome, there is the future of imi, I will be to the one speaking. What will I be? So to lalunti is from laleo. It's an epsilon contract verb. It gets a dotted underline because it's a dative case. Now we could also put that in curly braces. That's fine, because we could maybe understand that with respect to. So we could understand that as like a dative of reference. I will be with reference to the one speaking. What will I be? A barbaros. I'll be a barbaros. I'll be a barbarian. And the one speaking in me, a barbaros. So ol alone is nominative participle form, present active. And it's nominative, singular, masculine, a barbaros. So the one speaking in me will be a barbaros, a barbarian. Now it's kind of interesting. He says the one speaking in emu. So in emu, I put around in parentheses. That's a little bit odd, because earlier we just had the to. With the dative, so to the one speaking, with regard to the one speaking, and the one speaking with regard to me, in regard to my self, will be a barbarian. So a null verb construct, but we can resupply the verb down here, except it would need to be third singular form implied of emi, future of emi. By the way, you have a lot of implied words in Greek, a lot of implied verbs especially with the verb imi, to be. So that will throw students off for sure. That'll throw them off. So what an interesting way for Paul to describe this. He describes this as the power of the voice, which really the power has to do with like the meaning, the significance. That's an interesting way for him to put it. I do think it is part of the cultural idiom, but it does underscore that, we want to be powerful, and the manifestation of gifts in people's lives, like we want to have significance, we want to have ability. And he's really saying that if you want to have that ability, if you want to express good power, it needs to be understood. It needs to be understood. That's real power, is a voice, a sound that is understood. That's real power. And this is quite interesting across 1 Corinthians because there are issues of power at play here and demonstrating power. Paul has to demonstrate that early on, the first 4 chapters, as he reestablishes his authority. And then in chapter 5, he has to call out and confront an immoral person. So having power is significant. And so how do we have power in our discourse? Well, we do so when there's understanding. And if not, as Paul says here, if I don't understand the significance or power of the voice, I will be a barbarian, and the one speaking will be a barbarian to me. Now, this idea of someone being a barbarian means like a real foreigner, like a foreigner, an outsider. And this is not a good thing. So this is partly why I believe that the kind of tongues that is going on is our languages. And people are being excluded by the use of languages. And these languages, when they're in the church and incorporated into church service, if they're not translated for people, then it creates a bad situation where you're basically foreigners to one another, barbarian. And that's not a good thing. All right. Well, I hope you found that helpful, and join me next time as we look at 1 Corinthians 14:12.
Interested in growing your ancient language skills but not sure where to start? Glossa House can help. From illustrated readers and short stories to lexicons and grammars, Glossa House offers a variety of resources for beginning, intermediate, and experienced ancient language learners. Head to glossahouse.com today. Glossa House, language resources for the global community.